One of the many benefits of working from home is that when I get a break in my day, I can step away from my office and come out to the garden. And I've been dying to do a garden tour because there's stuff coming up and starting. And so I thought I'd take a quick opportunity to do that. I won't show everything because it's still pretty early. It's June 22nd and we had a lot of late frost, so it was hard to get everything going in the garden this year. So lots of stuff hasn't really fully filled out yet. This is my first year growing Gladiolas. Those are coming up. And as always, the Hollyhocks are one of my very favorites, and they're doing beautifully. Make sure there's no buggies on there. You can see the size of these. They're just really gorgeous. The lilies haven't bloomed yet. Those are stargazer lilies. And I've got some more hollyhocks here. I transplanted a lot of irises this year. I don't think I'm very good at that. They don't seem to do well after I've gotten my hands on them, but I do think that they'll come back just fine next year. As always, the rhubarb is huge and healthy. I've gotten several harvests off of that, and I'll share some more today. This is really exciting to see. We got currant bushes a few years ago. The first year that rabbits ate them down, so we fenced it in. The second year, they came back, but we hardly got any berries. I don't know, another year, last year we got berries, but we just didn't get out here to harvest them. And this year, they look really amazing. There's so many on here, and I think for the first time after several years of having these, we're gonna have some jam. So I have 2 red currant bushes and 1 black currant bush. These aren't ripening quite as quickly, but this is gonna be fun. Currants aren't very good to eat right off the plant, so I'm not gonna try them because I'll probably, have to spit it out. That was so funny. I walked over here and there was a squirrel up on the deck, and he got so scared that he jumped down, flopped on the ground, and then ran off. Silly squirrels. Okay, this is usually really full right now too, but I mostly of these hostas, these big, just either these light dark green variegated or just the solid color ones like this one. But I'd really like to get more variegated in here, so I've dug some of those out and transplanted them in here this year. So I've got a few empty spaces. You can see the difference too. This hollyhock is older than the ones in the front, and it takes so much more time to bloom because it's here in the backyard. This is Estelby. This is my new one that I got this year, so I didn't expect it to get too big. It's really pretty, but I really love that light pink one. This is dirt, but underneath this dirt are bulbs for Caladium. I don't see them yet, and I know they take a while, so I'm a little worried. It's our Weigela bush. I think I want to chop that down so that it can regrow. Alright guys, here's the garden. It's really starting to fill out, but it needs needs a lot of work. This front bed, this is where I lost a couple things from my yard service over spraying. Plus, I dug the whole thing out this year because it was just so full of grass. So I have to do a better job of keeping up with that. So I just poked in all these annuals all over this because I replanted all the perennials except for, no, I think I did replant that one too. That's my penstemons, one of my favorites. And these are more gladiolas. Let me see. Yeah, gladiolas. And then I also replanted all of the irises in here, and they're not doing great. And I don't know if it's more from transplanting or more from the overspray from our herbicide for our lawn treatment. This is Peony. several peonies. I split them and transplanted them here. And I'll probably take some of those out next year, but they're going to take some time to recover. This is my bee balm. It was all sprayed with the herbicide, and it was looking pretty sparse. I'm somewhat happy with the way it's coming back. I can see I'm going to get some flowers. And I know from last year, it really it really filled in quickly. This is milkweed. It's not supposed to be here. I should remove it. This is also milkweed. It is supposed to be here. And it's contained in this half pot buried under the ground so that it doesn't spread, but somehow it got over there. And I see that somebody's been chewing on this, but I don't know who and if they'll be back. I might as well show you how full this garden is right now already. So I'm taking a different approach this year. And kind of just going back to a little bit more simplicity in how I plant, because when I was younger and I didn't have a home, I would grow wherever I could find a patch of dirt. And I would cram stuff into that patch of dirt, and it was like magic what I would get. And maybe my expectations have changed and that wasn't so magical back then. But there's so much information out there about gardening, and I know from experience that not all of it is valid. And one of those points has to do with overcrowding. And I have always overcrowded my garden, and I always have gotten good harvests. But this year I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna let loose and just plant as much as I can in a small space. So that's what I'm doing. And you're gonna see, especially with the tomatoes, that it's gonna be a jungle in here. And I just don't think it's going to be any harm. So we're gonna do that experiment this year and see, you know, if I cram things in really tightly, what happens. And you know what I think? I think we're going to get a great harvest. These tomatoes, so this year is really different from last year. Last year we had just torrential rains all the time. All spring was just rain, rain, rain. I was always flooded back here. This year we are in a drought. We've had almost no rain the entire spring. It rained once. Last week we weren't even home, so I don't know how much we got. But when it did, and also I've been watering, this is really filling out. And so you can see I have a lot of chores to do. One of my favorite chores is to prune tomatoes. But what I've learned is, well, what I think is that I do a little too much pruning and my plants suffer for it. And so this year I'm going to take the opposite approach. And I'm going to prune as little as possible. But nonetheless, all of these plants need to be tied up to the trellis. You can see too, I've planted some herbs in between the rows of my tomatoes, so that's new for me this year too. But all of these need to be tied up. Normally, especially on my Romas, which are this patch here, I get blossom end rot in the spring and lose so many tomatoes. And then I go back with this stuff called Rot Stop, and I spray it on, and it gets better. Now, I don't know if it's the Rot Stop that's actually helping it, or if it's just that, you know, blossom end rot usually is just early and then it gets better. So this year, and hopefully maybe even today, I'm going to come out here and spray all the tomatoes down with Rot Stop and see if I can have avoid the blossom end rot this year. Look at that. This is I don't know, a little bit higher than, gosh, almost to my chest already. It is pretty early, so we're going to have some pretty high tomatoes. Okay, This is where my Minnesota midget is. It's still really healthy. I think last year it wasn't so healthy at this point. This is really just a ton of dill. And oh, by the way, I don't know if you noticed, there is a dill over here that's just about ready to flower. This was a volunteer, and it was here in my onions, and it was gonna get weeded out, and I said, no, leave that there. We're gonna have dill early. It's always a battle for us. Our cucumbers come in before our dill, or you know, we just never have dill at the right time. So I just planted a ton of it. We've got a volunteer over there. I thought I had some more, but I'm not sure what happened to those. Oh, look at that, you guys. Darn it. I can't believe we've got these already. That is, if you don't know, that's a Japanese beetle. They are awful. They are the most awful creatures. They chew the snot out of everything. They're always my beans. My beans are always just covered in them. So that means I'm also going to come out here with my spray can and put down some neem oil spray on everything, because those things can't. I don't know why we get those now, but they're just awful. Okay, so we've got some squashes in here, guys. They're labeled. The labels are way down in here. So this is the sunburst. You can see, and we got some blossoms coming. You see that little cutie back there? And I'm really looking forward to these. I haven't grown them before. I see I have this is one thing that's hard about overgrowing your garden, is I have a cucumber, see that vine, and it's coming right into here, and it's barely even detectable, so I have to try to find that and get it back up on the trellis. See if we can do that together. This is a muncher cucumber, so I don't think it gets all that tall. I'll just go that way. There's another volunteer dill. You're going to see a lot of this stuff just kind of growing together. The other thing I've decided is that these strawberries are great in this bed because they're June bearing. They're actually done. I may have a couple of berries left in there to harvest, but strawberries, after they're done fruiting, you're supposed to mow them like with a lawnmower. This isn't a raised bed, and I'm not going to bring a lawnmower in here. So what I'm going to try this year, and the reason you do that is because they sent out these runners, and this is how they reproduce. So they send out the runners, and then these runners on the ground just root and create new plants. And so this is just full of plants because mostly of runners from the few I planted, last year, or the year before. I transplanted them here last year. And what's great about this is that these are done now, and I can mow them and let the space then focus on the stuff growing on the trellises. So I really have kind of dual purpose to these beds. I think I didn't explain very well about the mowing. You can see this one. I just pulled it up from the ground. The strawberry runner that was just starting to root in the ground there. When they're done fruiting and they start sending these runners out, mowing these leaves off allows the plant to focus its energy on establishing these runners. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come out here and I'm going to hand trim these. I think I have a little homework to do to just make sure that I'm not hurting anything, but that's my plan. And then this space will be for the cucumbers and stuff, because right now I'm getting cucumbers in here and I can't even see them because there's so many strawberries and they're so tall. You can see I still have some berries back in there, and I suppose trimming out the leaves will probably help me find the remaining berries too. Ooh, that looks good. And this is the end of the harvest, so these are just really little, but they're really good this way. I have picked a few cucumbers. They're mostly pickling cucumbers, so they're not getting used very much right now because we don't really have enough to pickle. This is a gherkin. We don't really have enough to pickle, so they're just kind of in my fridge, but I want to pick them anyways so that... Why do I want to pick them? Sorry, I found a weed and it's distracting me. I want to pick off the cucumbers because I just want them to continue focusing their energy on growing the vines. You can see a really cutie pie over there growing. This trellis has, well, you can see, for example, over there, that is either a Boston or a Chicago pickling cucumber, and it's getting tall. These are gherkins. My husband really wanted them this year because he felt like they were the best producers last year. But they don't seem to be growing. In fact, I don't even know where they are. Let's see. There's pickles, there's cucumbers on them though. Do you see that? But the vines are not hardly growing at all. So I wonder if they're a mini variety or bush variety or something, but they're supposed to be the gherkin variety, like this, gherkin. And they're getting a lot of blossoms on them. And so, let's see, we got another, you can't see in my screen though. So they're really fruiting, but the vines are just big nothing. So we'll see how that goes. But we did invest a lot of space into that variety because that was what Craig wanted. I just hope they come through for us. Let's see. And back here we have more cucumber varieties and some squash too. I had my asparagus growing in this entire back part of the bed, and I took it out this year because it took up so much space, and in the summer it would just come out to, you know, here, and it was just this huge giant bush mass of asparagus, you know, and it's weedy looking and ugly. And then in the spring we'd get a couple of sprigs and they weren't even that good, so I gave them to a guy who came into my plant sale this year because he was so jazzed about it. I just let him have it. So that's filling in with strawberries, and I put some herbs in here. I haven't done herbs in the ground before. I usually put them in containers because I feel like they are great things to grow in containers, but what I'm learning over the years is everything does better in the ground. Everything. So I've got parsley, and I scattered some additional seed. I've got cilantro over here. This is called Cruiser, and it looks like it may already be getting ready to flower. See how those are really ferny leaves? I don't want that. I don't want them to flower, so I'm going to pinch that off. I did also put down some additional seed here. I'm not very good at growing herbs. I don't know why. They always just go to seed on me, and then I don't have them available when I really want them. Maybe I just need to prune them better. Another thing I did, and I hope it's cool, is you can see right back here, I have, that's a bean. I don't remember which kind of bean it is. I think that is that a squash bug? I gotta kill that, and I'm afraid of bugs. I'll figure it out. Okay, I tried to kill it, it got away. Anyway, that's a bean, and that is, I think, maybe a scarlet runner bean or a Christmas lima bean, but stuff I didn't have really a lot of room in the garden for, but I wanted anyways because I think they're going to be pretty, and I'm going to let them grow up and line the fence. So we'll see. I don't know if it'll work, but we're going to try it. This squash is doing amazing. It's already up over my head. This is an Italian butter squash. I haven't grown that kind before. Let's see if we've got any. So this is a Black Beauty zucchini. I'm kind of surprised I don't have anything on here yet because, I don't know, zucchinis are just such givers. So I see a blossom over there. You can see another plant tag back there, silver slice or cucumbers growing on the other side of there. One of the cucumbers I'm really excited about this year is this, it's called China Jade, and it's supposed to be exceptional tasting. And I've got a nice big one coming here. It was caught up in the trellis for a while, so it's got a good curve to it, but maybe it'll straighten out a little bit. So that is the garden now. I have a lot of work to do. All of this needs to be mowed. Although I said I wasn't going to do a lot of pruning on the tomatoes, they do need to be gotten under control. They need to be up on the trellis, and then just the bottom leaves cut off of them. And maybe I'll decide to trim them back a little bit more because they are pretty crazy. But I'll keep you updated. And look at all the weeds in here. Also, I need to fertilize. I need to do some insect control. Looks like I could use some water again too. Oh, here we go. So here's a zucchini. And we got a little guy coming in there. Can we see it? Yep. I've actually got a lot of peppers coming in too. Well, oh, look, and peas. I just harvested these peas a couple of days ago, and they're pretty full again. And they're good. Listen, I'll crunch. See, good. This is a grape pepperoncini that I grew in the house in February, and I think they're probably overripe now. But that's why I have peppers on that. And then these are starting to grow. And you know what, guys? I had these labeled in cups like this. And they were full of dirt, so they weren't going anywhere until we had this massive windstorm that blew my cups. So I don't even know what kind of peppers I have here. And I can't believe I did that because I know better. I know how important labeling is. And I'm kind of disappointed in myself. These are beans. Okay, so this is another way I'm crowding in this year. Sorry, I still have this bean in my mouth. And I can't chew it because it's so crunchy. I'll just eat it. Another way I'm crowding in this year is these are peas on this trellis. And then what I did was later on, I just planted beans at the base of them. And then before long, these peas are going to be done. I'm kind of actually surprised they're not done already because I'm really terrible at growing peas. But when they're done, these beans are just going to take over this trellis. You can see last year's remnants. I also planted some flowers among my vegetables this year just because I had them and didn't want to let them go to waste. Oh, and over here, I gotta show you this. Don't look at my flower pots because I realize they're ugly. Okay, I'll tell you. These are all started from seeds. Some of them are nasturtium. This is nasturtium here. This is a geranium. And they were big and full and beautiful in the greenhouse. And when I put them in this pot, and then we got just incredible heat wave that took so much stuff out, especially stuff that grows in the pots, and these just fried. But it looks like they're starting to come back a little bit. So this was kind of an experiment when I transplanted my peonies. I had all of these pieces of root or tuber that had no eyes on them. And I thought they were garbage, but I didn't want to throw them away. So I just piled them into here. It's probably, this pot is probably this full of tubers and then just covered with dirt. And this is how many plants I got out of that. So I guess transplanting peonies are not as difficult as they try to make it sound. I think it's the timing that really makes a difference because these won't look nice at all this year, but next year they will. And these pots are all potatoes, and they got in the ground, or they get planted really late because I just had too much going on this year. So these have to, I need to come in and continue filling these with dirt as they grow until they're full. And this pot I don't know, just makes me wonder if I forgot to plant some in there, because it's the same variety as some of these and none of them are coming up. So it would be just like me to not put the actual potato in the pot. So that's it, guys. The yard looks not good, but I've got a lot of work to do before we go on vacation in a week and a half. And that includes installing irrigation system into this jungle. Wish me luck for that. That's it for today. I'm going to do some chores, and I'll give you another update when everything's cleaned up.